I don't know what it's like to have a father like walk me to school. I don't know what it's like to have a father to say, okay, hey, like you got this going, like, okay, I'm dating this girl and I'm trying to figure it out, and I just need somebody. I don't know what that's like. I don't know what it's like to. I ain't never had nobody talk about the birds and the bees with me.
Hey everyone, this is Janelle. I am the host of the Finally Daddy's Little Girl podcast, where we address our father wounds and we talk about and we build a relationship with Christ and embrace him as the father that he is. Because, y'all, that changed my entire life. Embracing God as my father has changed my entire life. And so, therefore, I'm on this journey learning and growing with God and embracing him as my father because I didn't have that great relationship with my dad. And so what I'm doing is pretty much bringing all my friends on to discuss their relationships with their dad. Sometimes it was challenging and sometimes it was great. But today we're going to be talking with Zach. My friend Zach, he has a great story to tell. He has a interesting relationship with his dad, I would say. I don't want to put a label on it. He is a father, actually, he's a husband. He's a new father. He's a believer. He is a MSW professor. He's a licensed clinical social worker. And so he not only has a relationship with God that has changed his life too, but he also has the backing as far as the clinical experience and the knowledge. And so I love that combination. Him being a Black man, him being a husband, him being a father, him being a Bible believing person, man, and having that background is a big deal. And so, Zach, thank you for having us. Thank you for being on with us. I
Hmm.
appreciate you.
No problem at all. No problem.
So, tell us a little bit about who Zach is. Zachary Stevenson.
Well, yeah, kind of the things that you talked about. I'm a husband, a new father, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. Next May will be 13 years. Yeah, and yeah, and I'm a Christian, pretty much.
Yeah. And he can preach, y'all. He could preach. Sometimes he preaches at our church. I know you don't want to say it, but we talk about these things. So let's get into it. Describe your relationship with your dad growing up. How was it back then growing up? And what's your position as far as your siblings and stuff like that?
I was thinking about this question, like how would I describe it? And I would say complicated, even
Hmm.
then and even now. I feel like that gives us a great way of summing it up. Mm, the household that I grew up in with my mom, I'm the youngest and I have three older sisters. And so my dad married, I don't know when they got married, but they married and she had a kid and then they had two other kids. And so yeah, I would from my fondest memories, I would see him on the weekends most of the times. Yeah, that's kind of how it was until it got around like middle high school ish. And we can talk about that or if need to be, but yeah. So I would see him like every other weekend or something like that. It wasn't every weekend, but I would at least go up there and spend time with them.
So your mom got married to him, but then got a divorce, so they got separated, and that's why you would only see him on the weekends.
Yes,
Uh,
so basically what happened, my dad is the funny part about it is my dad is actually from New York.
that's where
Go ahead.
Zach and I met in New York. We go to church in New York. Go ahead.
Yeah. And the funny part about this, I think I might have told Warren this, I think a while ago when I found out that him and my mom used to live in Brooklyn.
Oh,
And
that's
they actually stayed a couple streets right by the church.
nice.
Like that's because I send him my sermons sometimes whenever I preach. Yeah, he asked about that. But yeah, so basically I don't remember them being married, but at some point in time it kind of got messy. There was cheating, there was also just toxic relationship. There was like domestic stuff, violence, and it just
Mhm.
got unhealthy on both ends. And so yeah, by the time that I remember they weren't married, but when I was little, I guess they were. But yeah.
Yeah, and so you moved to because you can hear in his accent that he's not from Brooklyn. See, I'm from Brooklyn.
No.
He has a
Mm.
southern accent. Where did you move?
Well, let me. I guess I wasn't clear. My fault. Well, basically, they were in Augusta, and my mom is from
Georgia. Got
Augusta,
it.
Augusta, Georgia. Yeah, and so they didn't live in Brooklyn that long. They just moved up here twice, and eventually they moved back down. So like one of my sisters is born in Brooklyn, but they didn't stay up here long, and so he ended up staying on one side of the town in Augusta, which was a town that was a little nicer with his family, with my stepsisters and brothers,
Mm,
and we stayed in what is literally called the Bottom. Yeah, that's what it's
wow.
called. It's called the Bottom. Gentrification is they trying to gentrify it in Augusta, but that's what it's called. You would like I how I grew up in Augusta was you wouldn't come across those train tracks if you weren't from the Bottom. So like if you was
Mm.
not a the only time I seen a white person was if they was coming for drugs or they was a police officer or a teacher.
Similar for me, but in Brooklyn. But that's a whole nother topic. We'll talk about that later. Okay. So I asked, and we're gonna get back to, the details of his relationship with his dad. So you said it was challenging or difficult.
Complicated.
Complicated. Sorry, complicated. So I asked him, what is the particular thing that he wanted to talk about his father? And we're going to talk about other things, but he said communication, and I thought that was interesting because obviously communication affects everything, right, in our lives. And now that you're a social worker, I thought that was something that maybe affected why you became a social worker. Describe your dad's communication style, and then we can get into other things. You're like, is there any type of stuff?
He doesn't.
That's
My
what I thought
dad,
you were gonna say.
he don't he does not know how to communicate. He does not know how to express his emotions or feelings or anything. Literally, and does not know how to communicate. The ironic part about it is he is great with kids that don't
Mm.
speak. So it when he's great with little kids. And so yeah, he a great example that a fond memory that I remember is when I would go over to their house and I was spending the night. It had to be like a Saturday or something. We waking up in the morning and we're sitting on the little on the countertop thing, eating like the little bar thingy, and the sink is right there. And I remember it was either my stepmom's birthday or Valentine's Day. He walks up to her and gives her a card. She opens it as she's washing the dishes. And I guess he has something in there like "I love you" or something like that. And so she has said to him, she looked back at him and said, "Oh, so can you say it?" And he was like, come on now, Jack, come on, Jackie." And for
He
me,
just
that like
won't.
yeah, that like stuck in my head. I've just been very observant, and for me, that stuck in my head. Like something's not right here. Like I don't know what is happening, but something was supposed to be communicated, and it seemed like this person cannot communicate it. And over
Mm.
time, I began to recognize that he does not know how to communicate at all whatsoever. Yes.
Yeah, I find that to be common with a lot of people who are not there for their children, or
Hmm.
when they have very difficult relationships, which makes sense,
Yeah.
right? How did he communicate with you growing up? So we talked about that a little bit, and does he communicate with you now? So you said it's pretty much the same thing. Would you say there's some type of
Yeah.
improvement?
I do have to give him a little bit of credit. There is some improvement, but is so I'm putting my clinical hat on.
Yeah, I think that we could benefit from that.
Yeah, so there's this clinical skill called DBT, dialectical behavior therapy. And the point of it is to say like dialectical, two things can be true. And so at the same time. And so in it, there's a skill called radical acceptance,
Mm.
where you radically accept something, but on the other hand, that does not mean that you approve it and you're okay with it. And so I say that to say I have radically accept that my father cannot communicate and is going to have these very weird and awkward moments of communicating with me. Like I send him a wedding invitation and I don't hear anything back, but
Whoa.
will text me about season tickets for a Brooklyn Nets game and want me to meet with the people and do all this stuff on his behalf. You see what you see what I'm saying? Like you get him. So I have yeah. So I've radically accept that he doesn't know how to communicate and it's awkward for him. But then I'm not okay with it and I don't approve it. But also like I do see that there's these small moments that are not consistent. They will maybe be once every 3 months or once a year or whatever it may be. I just radically accept that. Gonna be these weird, awkward moments. That don't mean I'm okay with it, and I don't mean I
Right.
approve it. Yeah,
And I
but
think
yeah,
that's a healthy place because you can't change him. You can just pray.
no, nah.
That's it. I mean, yeah. So I think when we have issues with when we have consistent disappointment of our parents or
Hmm.
of in this situation our dads, that's because we haven't just fully accepted it. And so
Hmm.
I love that you don't approve it and you plan to not plan to, you have been better with your communication, clearly. And you're gonna show up better for your child and your wife, but
Hmm.
it is what it is as of right now until he
Yeah,
works with God to change it. Until he works
yeah,
with God to
yeah,
change it.
yeah.
Man, okay, the longer I live, the longer I am married, the more I see that I am like my mother, like my
Hmm.
father, you know. And so do you see yourself communicating like he did? And obviously not the whole way, but like is there some ways that you can see that? And do you notice any other way that you are like him?
So, do I communicate like him? Yes. So, me and Jill actually have this conversation a lot. I don't communicate like him because I grew up in a house with nothing but women. And so like I learned indirectly how you should express emotions, even if that was good, how they was expressing it, or bad. Well, I'm gonna say bad. I don't like using negative, or even if that was healthy or unhealthy and how they was
Unhealthy,
expressing it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so I just learned it. And so over time, so as I grew up, I was always the guy in the hood that was around all his boys, and they'd be like, Zach, you emotional. I've always been that guy. And but I have learned that has played a huge benefit in my life because I'm just very in tune with my emotions and most guys are not. Yeah. And so the other part of your question was like, are there similar ways? Fortunately, there are some similar ways, uh, which I have tension with. But I think that's just like there's just this thing that's in your DNA that you will have some kind of character. So like sometimes how the way I talk about non-black people, like my sister would say, like my
Just like
older sister, she'd
dad.
be like, yeah, you sound just like daddy. Be like, no, I don't. And then or yeah, how I talk about yeah. That's one way that I know, like, oh, okay, I talk like him. And so yeah, or like certain things about sports or something. There's certain stuff that he would say, and then my sister has made it, my older sister has made it very she has brought that to my attention that I can sometimes communicate like him.
Mm. Yeah, or even to the older sister who's seen most of it. And if you're the youngest and she's the oldest, I mean, she's seen a whole lot before you got there. So yeah,
Yes, she has. But also I've got to see a different side.
of
That's
him.
another comment. I got to see a different side of my mom that she didn't see.
Yeah, I honestly think that we
Mhm.
get different parents. Like we can have the
Yes.
same, we could be siblings. Like for example, I interviewed my sister about my dad for the podcast, and I was kind of surprised at how she
Hmm.
viewed him. She's younger than me, but how she experienced him was different than how I experienced him. And so that does make sense. We have different relationships with different people. So yeah, that does make
Hmm.
sense. So God, right? Jesus. The other day I had to put a video out, and I know this is not even anything like obviously unclear, but on my Instagram I was like, just in case if you think that I'm talking about any other God, because when I say God, I mean Jesus. So just to be clear, and this is what this podcast is about. So how have you seen God fathering you throughout your life? Because you didn't have that consistent father.
Hmm.
So if you look back now that you are grown, have a deeper, more mature relationship with Christ, looking back, how do you see God was like filling in the gaps or like just coming through for you as a father that you may have not noticed back when you were a kid?
Yeah. This is actually like I don't know if this would be a sermon that would ever be preached or talked about, but yeah, he has. There's a song that Fred has about like my father, like our father. You've always been there.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. And that like every time I hear that song, it like touches me because I know what it's like to not be able as a kid to not be able to register what I was looking at and what I wanted and was missing. Like seeing other kids, even if I mean we all grew up in the hood or whatever, but I would look and if a dad was there and he was hugging his kid, I'm like, well my like I remember the two games. I played a lot of sports that he has came to my whole life. Like
Wow.
like I remember moments of or just I mean just trying to understand what sex is, trying to understand like how to talk to a girl. Like I didn't have these things. And so luckily I had somebody like my grandfather and my goddad who like were I would consider fathers to me. Even in that there was still something that I've always missed in my heart. And yeah, it has taught me to see God as like just a true father because I know what it's like to not have a father. I know what it's like to have something missing in you
Uh-huh.
and you can't understand it and seeing other people have it. Yeah, like I remember the first time my godfather, I forgot when this was. It might have been 5 or 6 years ago. I don't remember, but I remember I was doing something for ministry with them. And I remember he came up to me, he hugged me, and I was crying. He was just like, he said, "So I want you to know I'm proud of you, son." And that
Oh,
like, and that like broke, and I was like, that like really broke me down because I never heard that before. You know, I don't,
wow.
I don't know, I don't know what it's like to have a father like walk me to school. I don't know what it's like to have a father to say, okay, hey, like you got this going, like, okay, I'm dating this girl and I'm trying to figure it out, and I don't know what that's like. I don't know what it's like to. I ain't never had nobody talk about the birds and the bees with me, you know. So even with having people that was like father figures in my life, and my mom did a great job at like always putting me around guys, but having people like my godfather and my grandfather, they taught me things like my grandfather taught me how to work. He taught me the benefit. Like you can always find a job. He instilled that in me. My godfather taught me what marriage looks like. It's okay to argue. He like you gonna see the like it's okay. Like this is what a healthy home looks like. But still, I just did not have the unconditional love, and so that helped me to see over my years of moving around and having to just rely solely on God that He is a true father.
Man, I got a little bit of chills because I know how it feels. I know how it feels, but God really does look out for us. Yeah. I don't, not that I don't think, I know that it's not it wasn't his choice to say, "Oh, this is," or it wasn't his first choice to say, okay, Zach is going to not have his father. But
But it wasn't I would say it wasn't his desire.
it was not his desire, but
Yeah.
your father had his
Hmm.
own free will to choose. So God
Hmm.
is like, okay, so I have to come through for my son, Zach, in ways that, is not
Hmm.
my intention for him. I
Hmm.
my first choice for him. So how are you feeling? How are you healing from the relationship that you have with your dad? Like I said before, you have a lot of different ways, a lot of different skills, healthy skills to heal. You have your relationship with Christ, obviously the Bible. You have your
Hmm.
clinician background. So, and all these tools. So, I mean, you can answer any way that fits, but I would assume that those are the things that would help. So, yeah, would love to hear it.
Yeah, yeah, they have, but it's been a. I would say I don't know what that tense is, but I would say I am healing.
So, yeah, how have
No,
you been? How you said that you're healing, which I think is a very healthy answer because do we really totally heal? you know,
yeah,
there's so much more, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, because I just feel like the dynamics are always ever changing. So it's been a long journey. It's been at one point in like 2011, me actually sitting down with him before I moved to the East Coast and went to grad school and telling him the reason why I backed away from him, went back into seminary, and then I was getting ready to leave and me writing him a letter.
You
Yeah,
didn't get a
so
response.
I didn't get a response, but he responded to my sister. So yeah, so it's
So he
like
told her how he felt about the
yeah,
letter.
yeah, but also too, I did it with the intentions for no response.
You have
Yeah.
accepted how he communicates and who he is.
And then I would say the third thing that I did was during COVID in therapy, and I did this thing called EMDR,
Hmm.
emotional move, well, I something whatever it is, but it's just like trauma informed therapy, and that helped me a lot with processing because it was to me it was a traumatic thing because it has reshaped how it has reshaped how I do certain relationships, and so I needed to like process that, and that was like a long journey during COVID of going through intense therapy to work on that. So that's how I am healing from it.
Listen, Zach. Not having it's kind of like the way I kind of put it, and it may be dramatic, but you have two legs for a reason, right? In order to stand up straight, you need the two legs. So if one leg is not there, you can stand. It's just that you have to learn to stand. You need support to stand, but
Hmm.
it's going to be very difficult. And so it is not like we talked about. It's not the way that it was supposed to be. This God created. It's funny how it's not funny. It's great and it's fascinating how, in order for a human to be born or even like conceived, I would say you need a man and you need a woman. There's no other way to do it. And so that's the reason why I believe, God is like, there's no other way for it. It doesn't matter how many people, as society keeps advancing, it doesn't matter how much we do as humans to create life outside of the standard that God has created. You still need a
Hmm.
sperm from a man and you need the egg from a woman. And so therefore the child needs a father and a mother. And so it's going to be like you said, it's very traumatic for you not to have your father in your life. And so I'm glad that you took the time, even I keep on saying a therapist, but I know you're not considered a MSW.
Yeah, yes, therapist. Yeah,
You're
yeah,
because would you consider yourself a therapist? Okay,
yeah. A
therapist.
mental, like a like a mental health therapist, basically.
Yes, exactly. And I'm so glad that you, being in that line of work, still get the work done for yourself as a getting therapy as yourself for yourself because actually all my friends who are therapists always go to therapy because they understand the value of therapy. But it seems like the
Yeah,
average person doesn't. And in our
yeah, yeah.
community, we just don't. Put me in therapy any moment. I'm like, yes, because I want to get rid of the hurt, and so I
Yeah.
appreciate you saying that, and especially as a black man. Okay, so do you believe your relationship with your dad propelled you? We kind of talked about this already to becoming the clinical social worker that you are today.
No, I don't
Really?
think so. Yeah, no, I don't because well, I don't think intentionally it did. I don't think it. I think because I've always thought about this. I think because how I got into social work was because I was supposed to play baseball at a certain school and they wanted to register me, all this other stuff. And so then I went to another school last minute and I didn't know what I wanted to major in. And I was like, oh, I've been in church all my life. I do theology. They didn't have theology. And the next thing to the last T was social work. And I was like, oh, I do social work.
Uh,
And I ended up falling in love with social work. And so I think the fact that my father was not present, I think the fact that my father did not support us fully in a way
mhm,
that basically that we struggled, like we really, really, really
mhm.
struggled. And so like but then they had a nice house, they had all these other things. But anyway, so like and
Wow.
so it taught so I feel like that taught me because he was not there and he did not do certain things and make sure that we were straight even though they were divorced. I think my environment and me being my environment and how people helped us and how we helped other people, that what led me into loving social work and wanting to like be a therapist and then also just growing up in the hood, and you have to be observant. You have to understand. So I just always been a very, I don't know if that's a gift
Mhm.
from God, or God just built that, or God just like that's something that my environment trained in me. And I've always been observant because I've always walked into a room and figured out like, okay, this is who I can talk to. This is who I can't. I'm seeing this person is an extrovert. This person is an introvert. These two people are talk like that's just how my brain works. And so it's taught me how to navigate. And I think that I don't know if that's directly because of him. I think if anything, it's indirectly because of him.
Yeah, I would say is yeah, indirectly because your dad is not the one that said, "Hey, become a social worker." He
Yeah.
wasn't communicating. That
Yeah.
that makes sense, and you being observant is your way of protecting yourself. Like you said, you had to survey the land, and that was the way you protected yourself. And I'm sure now your family, which is where we go into. Congratulations again, marriage, the daughter. I love, and I would love to, if it's your something that you and Jill want to talk about maybe in another time, but like how did you become parents? Because that was a extraordinary story. But so tell us about the highs and some of the challenges of being a husband and a father without having that displayed in your house growing up. You had the
Mhm.
mother displayed in your house, but you didn't have the father displayed in your house. So how is it now?
I say some pros is I'm emotionally with my wife, and I'm very in tune with about women things that most dudes probably not, because like for instance, my sisters was going and my mama was going through periods and cycles, and
Hmm.
I'm like, and I
You need.
yeah, and I'm seeing these things, and I'm like in elementary school, so like yeah, like I'm seeing pads and stuff around the house, so it's like I had to go buy these, so it's like so like those things is that con would be is that sometimes I may not be as assertive.
Mm,
Yeah, because I would say because I would say that's because most guys they I feel like most guys that I have seen in relationships or in marriage, they just can be very like, we doing this and that's it. I'm like, I don't know if that's correct or not. So what I did was I just went all the way to the other side. Okay, let's talk about it first, and then let's see. And sometimes it's not always needed.
and
If
Jill comes
if that
from,
makes
sorry,
sense.
there. Oh,
No,
it
go ahead.
makes sense. And yeah, it makes sense. Your father was supposed to be the one to set that standard, and you didn't know. You just didn't
Mm-hmm.
know. Jill seems to have a great relationship with her dad. So that
Mm-hmm.
probably is an interesting balance as well. Like, having
Mm-hmm.
such a strong father figure in her life, and now you're
Mm-hmm.
learning to become that person. I think it's also beautiful because she chose you for a reason. She chose you that she knew that you can do it. And she knew what it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Uh and so she's like, yeah, this is the person I want to have a child with. That's a big deal. I always tell my husband that. I'm like, I already knew I wanted to have a child with you. And that's a big deal. So what's your relationship with your dad like now? We talked about that already a little bit. And how has that affected Jill and like your baby? Like, has he met Jill and the baby? Like, has he been involved in their lives to a certain degree?
No, no, and I don't know.
No,
So
the
that's
answer is
something I.
no. The answer is no, because if he hasn't met them, that means he's not involved. So he
I
hasn't
mean,
met.
but no, this is the like the. That's why I say I started in the beginning of this is like it's complex. But however, he has supported us with like buying certain baby stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like that's why I'm like I don't know. Yeah, I don't. That's something that I'm still processing about him about him having a relationship with my daughter. That's something I'm still processing,
Yeah,
and I'm okay with.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So if he showed up the way he is now, not radically
Mhm.
changed, would you want? You said you're still processing to decide if you would want her to have a relationship with him, like some type of connection. Is that what you're saying? He's like, Janelle,
Uh,
what are you asking?
no. So right. So so on one end, what my first feeling is, oh, like you're not having a relationship with my kid, bro. Like that's just not happening. But on the other end, it's like you have showed up, and I can't. I have to give you some kind of
Ready?
like
Yeah.
like a star on your shirt for good work. You have done something, So yeah, so that's what the tension is.
And
Yeah.
that's okay. You don't have to have a full
Yeah.
answer. I think this answer was needed for someone because
Hmm.
I have heard someone say, I don't want my parent to meet my child. And they probably feel
Hmm.
bad about it. But if that's the best thing for the child, then that's the
Hmm.
best for right now. That is the best thing for
Hmm.
the child because unfortunately, if you see a stranger in the street and that person is not safe, you obviously not going to put your child close to that person. And if that
Yep.
person so happens to be your father, unfortunately, you have to do the same. You have to separate them from your child. So I get that. And I think that's real. And it's okay to not have a full on answer, like not having
Yeah.
a full yes or full no. She's only 4 months, thank God, so she still has more time. But let's pray that he does change and he becomes a safe place for her. But as of right now, the answer is probably, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
And I'm
okay.
yeah.
That's
I'm not
okay.
sure, and I don't know, and yeah, God gonna have to. That's something that I would say that God is working on me with, because one side is okay, Zach, you should put your emotions to the side, and then the other side is that he with kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So, as we know that God uses all things to work out for our good and His glory, do you see Him doing that with the relationship you have with your dad? And we're almost coming to an end. The beauty of God is that He reuses everything. I do believe
Hmm.
that He is using your relationship with your father, for your good and His glory. So where do you see? You're like, I love the eyes. You're like, really? But where do you see him doing that for your good and his glory?
Yeah, so I would frame it. I'm kind of a storyteller. I would frame it like this. I tell it in the story form like this. Like I did a youth retreat for Korean church, and while I was doing it, I kind of talked about like my wounds with my father, and so I've come to a place like through that I came to a place of recognizing that I do not expect him to be the father that I've always wanted or will always need. And
Mhm.
so I would say my heart is that he one day gets to accept Christ into his life. Like that's the goal. That's the goal that I have now with the relationship with him. And so that
Yeah.
looks like me sending, if I'm preaching, sending him a sermon. That looks like me sometimes accepting random texts and like actually replying to him. And who knows, like to go back to the question of him having a relationship with my daughter, that may look like me actually putting my feelings to the side if that's what God's will is for me to put my relationship to the side so that he can actually have a relationship to her.
Hmm.
And so I think that's my goal. Now my goal is not for me to be like, hey, this is my dad now. Like I don't think that what I've come to a place that I don't think that well, I don't like to use absolute words like never and always. There's a possibility that he could change, but I've come
Yeah.
to a place of accepting that right now he isn't, and I'm not going to expect him to. And so I just hope that through my display and through my actions and through these random sermons or Bible studies that I teach into every blue moon, that he'll watch it. Maybe someone tug on his heart, you know? Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. And I understand. I think that the consistent thing that you brought up, I mean, there's a few things, but the thing that really stands out is that I've accepted my dad the way he is.
Hmm.
And I don't like how he's showing up, but he is who he is as of right now. And there's a possibility that God will do something, and I don't
Hmm.
want to shut that door. And so I think for me, the thing that was the most transformative is when God gave me that revelation as well with my dad. When I should just accept him the way he is, he needs Jesus, just like I need Jesus. His sin is not worse than mine. He
Hmm.
sinned. Not being there for your children, I believe, is sin. He's not showing up for his responsibilities. But me accepting my father the way he is has been transformative, in addition to I would say second to really accepting Christ, embracing Christ as my father. And so I say that to say whoever's gonna watch this, like, you can't get blood from a stone. You can't get something from a person that doesn't have it until they gain it, you know? And so he
Mhm.
doesn't have it. He just doesn't have it.
Mhm.
And so this is not even on the list, but like, where do you see forgiveness in this? Like the power of forgiveness, because the accepting maybe have come with the forgiveness. So where do you
Mhm.
see the power of forgiveness in this story?
Yeah, forgiveness forgiveness came a long time ago when I first sat down with him in, like, 2011. Like, I
Yeah.
forgave him.
Remember you talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I I would say well, no, let me say it in this way. I would say that I am continuously forgiving him because even though I have come to accept it, there's still feelings and emotions around it. Like, for a good example, like, if it was if I was not a Christian and I didn't believe in God, I'd be like, man, you can kick rocks, bro. You don't need to have a relationship with me or my wife or my daughter. I care
That's
less,
a
my
big
guy.
fact.
I care less. The only reason why I'm trying to do this is because I serve God. I have met him. I feel him. I know him. He has spoken to me. He has been such a way better father than you have ever been to me. And so because of that, because I have lived more and him giving me grace and him
Mhm.
understanding me, then I have to at least bend the knee and say, let me try to to give something to you. But if it was my will,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want nothing, and I care less. But
That
it's
that's a
only because of God.
yes, that is reality. That is real. That is real.
Yeah.
I always say I used to call my dad a sperm donor, just a sperm donor. Like on my phone, it was just sperm donor
Mhm.
calling. And once I started having that relationship with Christ, like once he started working in my heart, of course I had to change that because that,
Mhm.
there's a level of respect that I need to have to my for my father. But also, like you said, because of my relationship with Christ, I leave that door open. And even though it may be very dangerous for me to do that, I do believe that the Lord is protecting me
Mhm.
in that crack because I want to protect myself fully and just shut out, because I
Mhm.
did that
Mhm.
before. I did that before. So I love that and it's real. Okay, so last thing, what do you see God doing in your life now with your relationship with Him and your dad? You kind of answered that, but is there anything else that you want to add to that?
I would say I would I don't know, as we talking, I would just think about like Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane and saying like, let this cup pass,
Yeah.
but if it's not my will, let your will be done. I think that is kind of what the complexity of me and my dad's relationship is because my
Mhm.
will is if there's any other way that he can get to heaven, let it happen. Maybe it ain't through me. But if it's your will that I actually build some kind of relationship with him, then let your will be done.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, and that's the real deal. I appreciate this. Thank you so much. So yeah,
Yeah.
I hope y'all learned and is going to grow from this conversation. So with that being said, yeah, Zach, I appreciate you, and until next time, y'all,
Thank you.
we'll
Thank
talk
you. Thank you.
later. You're welcome.